Hey guys, it's Crystal Star
and Amy
from Lego Masters Volcania.
So episode 4 is the
Movie Challenge.
And we're really excited because
This is our thing.
Oh, I was excited because there was some Lego popcorn. And we got to go get it, and I'm pretty sure Crystal broke our Lego popcorn.
100%
Yes.
accurate, I can confirm.
But we pulled out Mystery, and we were both really excited because we both love the Scooby-Doo Lego sets.
So we start building our mystery, and it was phenomenal. I personally love the roof. I literally bled for that.
Oh, also you had like a learning experience because you used the cheese wedges, and you're the only person that mixed up the colors like that for the cheese wedges, and I like that you're like, we're gonna use Crystal's cheese wedge thing as a learning experience for Lego.
Oh yeah, so we got a little learning thing. Education is key.
So we really wanted to add this, we talked about it a lot because we're like, we don't want to copy Scooby-Doo exactly, but we really love like the idea of having, you know, these kids and they're like kind of Stranger Things and they're in the graveyard, and we're like, all right, who is going to be the bad guy who's really not the bad guy?
Old Wild Will.
And his wait, no.
Actually, we didn't come up with that until the second half.
Yeah,
So-
I'm pretty sure that was on the spot.
Oh yeah, so the Crypt Keeper, we built a house for him, and really a beautiful graveyard, if that can be a thing, but it was a really beautiful graveyard. And we had this awesome tree. We had the Crypt Keeper kind of hiding behind there with like a rope for the kids to kind of like find.
Oh, and he had one of the skeletons and he was like pulling it because like in Scooby-Doo, it's not actually a real ghost or a
It's always someone like controlling it.
Yeah, so that's what we wanted to do. And we had the 3 kids on the bicycles, and we left the gate kind of open, saying, hey, these kids are actually coming into the graveyard and they're investigating, they're not supposed to be here.
We also had an old dilapidated castle, which was really cool in the grave. So it looked like kind of an old church or an old building that had kind of like fallen in, or we blended in the scenery to that. And I personally haven't really done much of that. So that was a new thing for us to build. And something that you can't see on the show, Amy actually built a really rad
Like a moving bookcase.
yeah, so sadly we decided to shut the house just because they were talking about how we couldn't touch our build while
or tell the story.
or really tell the story. So looking back, that was a terrible mistake on both of our parts.
This is also the episode I think Crystal and I both realized we're like, I don't think adding the gears and the motors is worth the time. Like this,
we did it.
Yes, but the show is like, they're not looking for that. They're looking for big builds and wow. And doing the gears and the motors takes a long time. And this is the episode I think we both realized. I said, Crystal, I don't think it's worth it to do the gears and the motors going forward in this show. And
mainly because every time we had it, we didn't want like a Timber Town situation to happen, because it would work, but only like every 2 or 3 times, and then it would not work. And so when it didn't work, it was really bad because it would start to pull some of the other, and we had like 4 rooms in there and a jail built in there.
And
it was really intricate.
The moon was lit up, but they didn't, and you can definitely see it in the build, but they don't really,
it doesn't come
they're
across.
not doing technical stuff on this show. And that's something like going in, we didn't know, and like looking back, I wish we wouldn't have spent as much time on that. Yeah, it is. It's
hours.
So, you can ask everyone on the show that does any stuff, like we all realized, oh, motors and the gears take a long time and they want huge builds.
Yeah, so we did that, and then we got the twist came, and then we got the Western, and I was like, oh yeah, we're from Texas.
Yeah. No, everyone else was bummed when they got their mashup, and then Crystal and I were like, yay, because we're thinking, all right, I'm like, what Western shows do you really like? I'm like, all right, The Mandalorian, which The Mandalorian was shown on TV when we were all filming, so nothing like 15 adults sitting in a hotel room watching The Mandalorian on Friday night.
Lego for like 15 hours?
We're adults, y'all.
But yeah, we wanted like a good, bad, ugly kind of feel. We watched a lot of Westerns with our dads growing up, and I felt like it was another tip to the hat to our fathers. So we definitely wanted to include that. So we had a really cool mashup with them. All right, so let's talk about each individual build.
Okay.
Let's start with Tyler and Amy.
Okay, so they originally had comedy, and then their mashup was monster?
Yeah,
Monster.
Comedy and monster. I was gonna say kids, but they had a kid.
Yeah,
which
I thought it was a monkey. I wasn't really sure what was going on. I kind of thought Who Framed Roger Rabbit, so
very Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Okay, I didn't know what was going on. But
They came together.
And then Manny and Nestor originally had Western, and then they got the mashup of fantasy.
And they originally had a lot of rainbow in their build.
They were a little confused on what fantasy was.
I also feel like To me, fantasy could mean a lot of things.
And it's interesting the judges like nitpicked at that because fantasy could be anything. It's judges' perspective at that point, right? So
yeah, and I personally loved their build. Like I thought that the spaceships that they came up.
Space Western was.
I liked it.
Yeah, I did too. And the way they didn't use minifigs, they actually modded the bodies, so it was like these Space Western robot bodies. It was. Yeah, it was really good.
It was definitely more sci-fi, but a lot of our sci-fi kind of is like sci-fi fantasy. Yeah. So I can see where it gets muddy, and that's kind of the thing with genres. Like a lot of genres, it's kind of like a melting pot. All right, who's next? So Mel and Jermaine had fantasy and then
kids.
My favorite part of Mel and Jermaine's build was Legor! Legor came back. Legor was actually in a billboard?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he made the Legor. I forgot about that.
There was a mini Legor in the billboard. Legor's back with the space nips.
I actually really liked that they did like, they had this baby, but then they had this like milk. And it was like radioactive. Yeah, it was radioactive. It was green, and they had a really good technique on the side of the building where it looked like it was dripping down.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, the footage was really good. Even when I saw every little detail, and they had the rattle, so he was like throwing a tantrum. It was
pretty clever. Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Christian and Aaron had romance. So they actually had romance first, but Will put a B on it.
And then they also had to add thriller.
Yeah.
Their build was beautiful and
impressive.
Yes, and the judges kept knocking on them, and they were trying to scare them into getting up the golden brick.
That was a scare tactic 100%. 100%.
Their dragon, I just know they were like, this is the best dragon we've ever seen, and then they zoom in on Krystle's face. Shade. All the shade.
I felt that. I felt that in my core. But I'm gonna be honest, like if that were a set that you could buy, even just the cave part, to me that cave was everything. The way that the door slid open and the lights coming from within. Aaron and Christian, you guys are truly Lego masters.
Yes, that build was phenomenal, and you should have saved the golden brick and given it to us. So Sam and Jessica had thriller mashed with comedy, which thriller to me, everyone's thinking like, what is thriller to you besides Michael Jackson? And so they actually had a really good mashup. They had the kids that were taking over like the babysitting club?
Yeah, they had like grandmas trying to escape after like washing clothes. Honestly, I couldn't see their build. I felt like their build really had to be explained. But once I heard it, I was like, it's really funny. I get it. It's funny.
Mark and Boone, the monster romance.
Mark and Boone's build, they honestly nail it for me almost every time. The way that these two bearded builders tell a story.
They work so well together. Yeah. And like, so first off, they have like this epic shark, which Krystle and we love sharks and bananas. And then we're like, all right, what are they doing over there? There's gonna be one in a cage, and then they get romance. So how are they gonna mash this up? So of course, Boone sings. So then they have two monsters, and they're singing their love song.
It was epic.
They even had the little minifig that was like jumping out of the water, and they used the clear stud, so it was like, ah!
They really build action into their stuff. And if I were at like a brick show, a Lego convention, I would spend a lot of time with Boone and Marks because their attention to detail in the storytelling is honestly,
it makes you want to look
superb. Yeah, they get to the big pieces, but then they keep you there with all the detail. They are truly phenomenal.
Also, I don't know if anyone knows, we were talking about this when we were having our watch party, all of the stop motion that you see of the animated of our builds, they took actually our builds afterwards, and they did stop motion on all of our builds, which is, I know, really epic to see because Mark and Boone spend a lot of time, and how often do you get an amazing studio to do stop motion on your build like that?
Thanks, Stupid Monkey Studio.
Yeah, it's pretty glorious.
Flynn and Richard, or as I call them, Flitchard. Flitchard, you guys did so good. First, you guys got kids. And I think that the fairy storytelling was just, you guys nailed it.
And they're colored. They split the color up so well that it just told the
light,
story.
The dark, and they have a huge theater background, so they're very used to decorating stages and lighting.
And they did the pieces. It wasn't a flat build. It was kind of this like 3D build that they did off of the wall. And then when he even named his fairy Margot, which is from the Magicians, for the one-eyed, like,
they might have got some inspiration from their fairies.
Because
from
when we were talking about the build, I did a cosplay of Margot, all hail the one-eyed queen of the destroyer of Fillory or something, and it just makes me happy when we see like we've impacted everyone's builds and we put a little bit of us into their build and they put a little bit of us into theirs. So
That's nice.
yeah.
So our build, we had mystery
And Western. Which are both things we love.
Totally. And I think that we got dinged a lot for making it too Western, but these two girls from Texas really like Western, and I think it was really easy for us to incorporate that into our builds because it's a huge passion of ours and something that we've been around a lot as kids growing up. And I personally thought that it was tied together very well.
Like, so originally we had mystery, we had the kids on bicycles with the flashlights going to the graveyard, and we
It was all
switched
green.
Yeah,
it was very, very green. A lot of luscious stuff in the graveyard.
And like, then we got good suggestion from Chris Miller and Phil Lord. We got good direction from them. And then we switched out the bicycles, put the kids on horses, and they were lassoing, and they caught him. And we had little signs that showed the
wanted signs.
Yeah, for the sheriff.
And we added a ton more sand because the directions that the directors had told us to was to really incorporate that and really to like blend the two together. So I took their advice and really put a lot of sand kind of like coming into the graveyard. I think that we listened to their advice.
We spent too much time. We wanted to change. We had done this like black drop with like did some lights for the moon and the clouds, and we wanted to do like a Texas sunset.
And Amie was literally like halfway through building it.
Yeah.
And the judges came by and told her to stop and to...
It was a poor waste of time, but we both really loved, especially the Texas
sunsets. I don't think it
sunsets.
was a waste of time. Honestly, I kind of wish we had kept doing that. That was just an interesting build because Amie spent a lot of time with the gears, and I spent way too much time on the dang roof of the house with the tiny cheese wedges.
On the interior of the house too, and then she's like, we didn't even get a chance, we're telling our story, and then she's like, I wish I would have been able to see inside the house. I'm like, but you didn't give us a chance to open it. And it's like, oh, it looks like it's just this basic house on the outside. You open it up and there's this amazing story, and Krystle even hid like these bananas in the turkey, and then the turkey spin, and behind it was like, it was so
I put a lot of
Scooby-Doo.
detail in the house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
It's interesting just to look back and see what parts of the story they're telling, what we don't get to tell. If we can tell the story, open the build.
It's movie magic.
It is movie magic. We made a movie mystery Western magic. It's like The Mandalorian.
So being in the bottom two was so scary for the second time, and honestly, I hate being penned next to anyone, but especially Manny and Nestor, because I totally respect them as humans, as builders, and Nestor is literally like the cutest guy ever. He's so adorable.
He kept asking for hugs. I'm like, we just gave you a hug. He's like, oh, no, you didn't. I'm like, okay, Nestor.
No, Nestor is like the biggest character on the show, I think. Between him and Kara, their personalities are like larger than life, and it sucks that each episode you have to say goodbye to someone.
But I loved it because we all have like a group chat and we all talk, so we all FaceTime, and
we have breakfast together every morning.
Yes.
On our large group chat.
Yes, and it's
warming. It's
yeah, it's just we all know we like support each other, and someone has to go home and it sucks. So it's always hard when it's like we survived and to live another day and they didn't.
But the one thing that we get to keep forever is the friendships that we made on the show. So we hope you enjoyed LEGO Masters, and we'll see you guys next week for episode 5.